the lane. 15, 10. Touchdown, Chargers.
Well, welcome into a very special edition of Chargers Weekly. As always, joined by Matt Money Smith. In person, though, today, Top Golf El Segundo. The Chargers have just selected Joe Alt, 5th overall, the big, massive tackle from Notre Dame. And Money, do you want to give an "I told you so"?
No, I don't. I don't want to give an "I told you so."
You've been saying it.
Yeah, look, I think it's a product of what the Chargers are and what they want to be and what their identity is, and that is so important in this particular sport, is to have an identity, to establish a culture, to be a particular type of football team that you know when you walk into the facility every single day. This is how we play football, and I think it's something that's been missing. And one of the reasons why, when we talked about who do you want them to hire, I said I want them to hire a winner. And there's nobody that they could hire that would be better than Jim Harbaugh to walk through that door and say, I've won here, I've won here, I've won here, I've won here. This is how we do it. Follow me.
Yeah.
You know, you're losers. I'm a winner. Let's make you winners along with me. And this is the first step. You know, well, it's not the first step, but this is a step toward that result. And that's, we're going to play physical football. It's not lip service when Jim Harbaugh's at the owners' meeting and says, offensive line, what's the most important? But yeah, you know, exactly. 5 fingers on a glove. You know, it's a fist. You work together, and every other position group on the team benefits from the offensive line, and they don't benefit from anybody else. Like that's what was announced when you draft Joe Alt, when Malik Neighbors and Roma Dunze and any defensive player you want are there, and you take a 6'9", 350-pound guy that is going to beat the snot out of opponents with Rashawn Slater on the other side. That's what you're announcing. Yeah, you better strap it up, man. Better be ready to go, because we're going to beat your ass for 60 minutes.
Yeah, it's no surprise. And, you know, you hear Coach Bischoff saying this is going to be an offensive line-centric football team. And I think if you're a Chargers fan, you should feel good that this team has an identity, and it's been established from the beginning. You already had Rashawn Slater, who was here earlier with Zion Johnson, right? Now you bring Joe Alt in, and you're able to protect Justin Herbert and really bring this running game to life, Money. This is another big component of what they want to do, is run the football, and Joe Alt's going to provide that on the other side with Slater.
Yeah, that's a key. So, you know, a couple things there. Doing the show, you know, doing the draft party here, we had Rashawn, we had Zion, we had Alohi Gilman. We could not have picked 3 better people to have. One, Alohi, Notre Dame, who gave us some insight into what – and I'll start there. So Alohi, when we were talking to him, said, listen, offensive line at Notre Dame is a special, exclusive group of people. That is the identity of that football team. And he talked about how great it is. And I just happened to come back from Hawaii, and I happen to know somebody who played at the same high school he did, Kahuku, which is known as, they're known as, you know, the butt-kicking high school team. They're up by the North Shore. It's not Punahou. It's not St. Louis. It's in kind of the nicer part of town. It's kind of we're big, we're strong, you're going to feel it. So he got excited when we brought that up, and then he brought up Notre Dame. He's like, just know, like, when you're a football player at Notre Dame, you're in an exclusive group. Playing football at that place is special. He said, but then there's another subsect, which is the offensive linemen at Notre Dame. And he said they're in their own little sort of category in their own group. And, you know, he played with McGlinchey, with Quentin Nelson. And so he brought those guys up. He said to know that Joe Alt, he was juiced. He was excited. He's like, I can tell you, man, that's where we picked him, and that's what I've heard about him. Chargers got a heck of a football player today that's going to come in and help continue to set this tone of how they expect to play football.
And I just talked to Alohi too, and you know, how does the offensive line help the entire team, right? You know, and Jim Harbaugh alluded to that.
Yeah.
Like, it helps everybody. It helps the defense. Time of possession. This is going to be a time of possession football team too, Money. If you run the ball, you sustain drives, you get first downs, you're going to have that defense well rested on the sideline. And I think that's another element to how they're going to play football, starting with a guy like Joe Alt.
Yeah, and look, maybe the defense doesn't even have to come back on the field for a change.
Right.
I mean, how many times have we gone
Ice the game
to the end of game situation, you know, calling the game, and all the Chargers have to do is pick up 1, maybe 2 first downs, and they can't get it. They can't even get a couple yards. You know, you think about the Jacksonville playoff game, and you're talking about 6 carries for 13 yards when you're up, you know, 28-0. And that's what happens to the run game. So, it is the running game. That's what we're talking about. It's Gus Edwards. We had Zion up here, and so two things stood out from that. Zion, he said, I said, kind of, what it's like to block for runners, and what are you thinking when you see J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards walk through there? He's like, oh, he's like, Gus Edwards. He's like, man, that's a big guy. Look at him. I was like, that's a running back that I'm blocking for? So you get that, and then the other thing I said, that we asked him was, offensive line, there's pass pro, backing up, and then there's run blocking, pushing forward. And I said, how much different is it in terms of what you're being asked to do pushing forward? And he literally sat up. He's like, oh, man. He goes, you know how much better it is for offensive linemen to push forward, how much more excited you are about coming to work every day when you know you're pushing forward, when you're the one punishing the opponent. And it's not the other opponent that's pushing you and you're just doing your pass sets and trying to set up. That's what these guys want, man. Yeah. That's what they want to do. They want to dominate. They want to punish. They want to push forward. And that's what Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh are all about. And that's what Joe Alt is going to be a big part of, because he had 6'9", 35+ inch arms on the right side of that line, pushing forward and getting nasty like those Notre Dame, offensive linemen do.
Sometimes you wonder. You hear all these mock drafts and experts, and Money and I were at the Combine a couple of months ago talking to all these different people, and you just wonder, what do the teams actually think? And the board right now, we're in the 20s right now as we tape this. Steelers are on as we tape this, 20 exactly. You know what GMs in the league are saying? That tackle matters, right? Because Latham goes off the board right after Alt, and there has been a run on tackles. So you wonder, for the people, and over the last couple of months, we've talked about the wide receivers, right? We've talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors, and how any of those three guys would have been a perfect fit for the Chargers. When Marvin Harrison goes at 4, I think that's where it got really interesting. Two-part question, Money. If Marvin Harrison was there at 5, do you think the pick would have been different? And 2, what would you say to the fan that says we should have taken Malik Neighbors? What are we doing? We got to take Malik Neighbors.
I get it. We talked to Matt Harmon last week about all the receivers. And, man, watching, I call play-by-play. You don't think I want to call Justin Herbert's 70-yard bombs to Malik Neighbors? You know what it's going to be like, me calling, hey, Joe Alt just cleaned house, man, and we got 6 yards on that first down carry. I'm going to say that a lot, and it's not as exciting as having a touchdown call.
Well, you can make it exciting.
But they clip those. They play them on Sunday Night Football. Of course I wanted Malik Neighbors, or Rome Odunze, which I was not shy about talking about how he was one of my favorite players in this draft. But at the same time, I think what happens, and look, this isn't just fans. Like, there are head coaches in the league, in the NFL, that have sway, and they get into the first round, and they make that first round pick, and then they tell the front office, yeah, you guys do the rest. Wait a minute. This is not a one-player draft. You're hoping to come away with, in the case of the Chargers right now, 9 players that will make your team. Second rounder, third rounder, your high fourth round. Those guys better be starters. Like, this is not about one player. This is about what are these 9 players that you're going to get over this 3-day span going to look like, and how is that going to change your team? And it's not for 2024.
Yeah.
It's, that's something that Tom Telesco would always say to us. He's like, we're not drafting a guy for 17 games. We're drafting him for 5 years and hopefully a second contract in 10 years. So understand the Chargers. Look, Penei Sewell just got $28 million a year to play right tackle.
88 guaranteed.
Yeah, like, he's a right tackle. And look, he could be the left tackle, but they just, with Decker, that's how they play it. But you get the point. Like, Rashawn Slater's going to sign a $28 million a year deal. He's an all-pro. He's a left tackle. So think of this as a 5-year, because you're going to, if everything goes as we suspect it's going to, and I don't know why it wouldn't, you're going to pick up Joe Alt's 5th-year option. So now you've got your tackles, which very well could end up being the best tackles in the league. All-pro Slater, I think Joe Alt's going to be an all-pro as well. And now you have them locked up for 5 years at an average cost of about $12 million a year for the 2 of the best tackles. Like, that changes the math on everything when you can save all that money at a premium position. So I get it. Just to answer come back and answer your question so you can reset it. Like, I get it. I get why you'd be excited about Neighbors and why you desperately want it. Yeah, number 8, Neighbors or we riot. God knows the amount of incoming I've taken over the last 2 weeks for talking about what I think they're going to do. But there is no throwing downfield if you're not pushing forward and you're not establishing the run and you're not protecting the quarterback.
I'm so glad you mentioned the Lions, because the Lions started in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
They got Decker, they got Sewell. They built up both of their lines so they could then grab Jahmyr Gibbs. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the highest paid receiver in the league right now. Where'd he go? After Joshua Palmer.
Yeah.
Right? So
4th round.
So starting in the trenches, that's what the Chargers are doing. They already have Slater in tow. I think Zion is going to take a big step forward this year. I think that this can light a fire under Trey Pipkins. Keep in mind, we're talking about a starting 5, but when Coach Bischoff says offensive line centric, you're going to need all these guys. You're going to need to have depth that's required to win and kind of sustain a 17-game season. But kind of spinning it forward to the wide receiver position, I'm glad we had Harmon on recently too, because he talked about some of these other guys late in the first round, second round. A.D. Mitchell's still on the board. Xavier Worthy is still on the board. As we tape this. McConkey, Pearsall, Leggett, and I know that there's been a mixed bag on Leggett, but there's a lot of guys that Justin Herbert can get the football to, and maybe that starts in the second round, Money.
Yeah. Look, you know how many Stanford games I called where they had a 6th offensive lineman and 3 tight ends out there? So who knows? Maybe Pickens is a 6th lineman, and that's what you do. You run a lot of that.
And Alt played tight end, didn't he?
Yes, Alt was a tight end for 2. And that's the other thing too. I'm glad you mentioned that, because for the people, you're gonna make a left tackle, a right tackle. Guy was a tight end for 2 years.
Yeah.
He figured out left tackle pretty quick. Yeah. So it didn't take him too long to transition from tight end to left tackle. I think he'll be fine going left tackle to right tackle. In terms of the wide receivers, I think there's just so many different ways. And look, whatever. Basically, people are like, oh, you're a shill. You're a Chargers shill. You work for the team. You're going to push whatever they do as the right thing to do. But I feel like I've been pretty consistent, and I would not have been surprised if they would have taken Adunze or if they would have taken Neighbors. It would not have surprised me at all. I would have said, I get it. They're exceptional players. Maybe that was the best player on the board, and that's just what they're going to do, and they'll find another offensive lineman in the second round and coach him up and be fine. But, I think what is important, there's a couple things that we can kind of speak to, and you brought it up with the Lions. Is there any team in the NFL that has more of an identity as a football team that's connected to the identity of their head coach? No. It is Dan Campbell came in with that attitude. I am going to turn this place around. You guys have been losers for 3 decades, and we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure it out together. And he built a team of ass kickers and line dominant players. And he drafted Penei Sewell, and he drafted Aiden Hutchinson, and and he's got that line built around Ragnow and Decker, and he drafted Jahmyr Gibbs when everybody was coming at him for trading up to 12 to do that. And look, they were damn near in the Super Bowl. They were close to being in the Super Bowl because that's their identity.
And the Chargers have more talent than the Lions. When Campbell came in, I'm saying not now, but when they started this kind of rebuild, the one thing that stuck with me is they were losing and losing and losing, but they were like fighting their face off.
Dude. What were they doing? They were losing close games.
They were losing close games. And so my point is that the Chargers have more talent than the Lions did when Dan Campbell started. So I don't look at it as like a Lion rebuild per se, but I do think that it's going to take a little time to really build a culture and an identity that you haven't had in ever really with the Chargers in terms of what Harbaugh's trying to bring.
I think the thing with the Chargers, and I just bring it up to compare like how important it is. If you preach that identity, then you need to back it up. Yeah. You need to have the players to back it up, to play that style of football, and that's what Dan Campbell did. We're going to bite your kneecaps, and we're going to bite it again on the way up. Well, yeah, that's O-line. Yeah. That's Penei Sewell.
Speaking of O-line, Steelers just took.
There you go,
Fatano.
Who by the way, you think about the Steelers, and if I know we think of the Steelers and we think of defensive line, obviously, and great wide receiver play, but like the first position I think of with the Steelers is centers. They've always had incredible centers.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if that guy ends up becoming their center and becomes the best center in the league. Like that's the thing about, and whatever. That's just on the screen. Thought. Sorry. Where was I at? Oh, the other thing. Like, if you have Jim Harbaugh and Coach Bischoff talking about we're an O-line team, yeah. Well, guess what, guys? We're not BSing. We're not. This isn't lip service. This is who we are. I said it. I said it to the media, and now we're proving it to you. So when we tell you to go out there and push forward and to fight, and we're playing a physical brand of football, yeah, we're going to get you the players to do that too, and they're all going to help you out. The other thing I bring up too is with the wide receiver position. Look, I think just kind of look at the Chiefs. That's probably the best way. I can pick a bunch of different teams to illustrate this point, but just look at the Chiefs, right? They let Tyreek Hill go, the most explosive and dangerous player in the NFL outside of the quarterback position, a guy that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. They let him go. Just, go ahead, get out of here, walk out of here. Even though we've won a Super Bowl with you, you're the reason why we've been one of the reasons why we've been so successful. They let him go. 2, did they invest any first rounders in wide receivers? No. But what they did was trade a first rounder for Orlando Brown. They made Joe Tooney the highest paid guard in the league. They invested in Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. They just paid Jawan Taylor. They overpaid him based on past performance because they were like, look, we just got to get someone in here. Like, they invested in offensive line because they know how important it is. Rashee Rice, second rounder. Yeah. Sky Moore, second rounder. Like MVS, low budget free agent acquisition. Kadarius Toney, mid-round pick. Let's see if it's a reclamation project. They get it. They get it, like. And granted, they can do that because they have Travis Kelce, who's one of the biggest mismatches in the NFL. But that's my point.
That's what the Chargers are missing. They're missing the either the Kelce or the kind of number one explosive outside weapon that they could potentially get in the second round. I sat down with Hayden Hurst this week, and I think a decent year's coming for Hayden Hurst. Like I'm not saying that he's going to be a top 5, top 8 tight end in the league, but like I think that there's new characters that we're going to be introduced to this year, from J.K. Dobbins to Gus Edwards to Hayden Hurst. You're going to win a certain way, and oh, by the way, in the second round there could be a game changer that the Chargers land on. Like, I was thinking, like, what, Ladd McConkey's not going to work because we got Keenan Allen here. Like, Ladd McConkey could work right now for the Chargers.
Or don't forget, there's two sides of the football. They gotta shore up that defense.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, we're talking about corner,
linebackers, defensive tackles. They've got to identify that. Look, the Dobbins signing's huge. You know how I feel about that, and I had been hoping.
Like you said, you manifested it.
Yeah, we'd been pushing for that, and I think there's more opportunities like that out there where you can take some Christian Fulton's, former high pick, injury issues, see if you can get them. So that's kind of what I think the path is, and it's not. Again, it's hard to sell because I do believe this team will be good enough to make a playoff run and will be good enough to give the Chiefs all they can handle in the AFC West. I have that belief in Jim Harbaugh and this staff and the fact that they've got plenty. You've got Justin Herbert, you've got Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. I believe in the second-year players in Thule and some of the younger players. We talked about the offensive line, Zion Johnson in year 3. I think that you're talking about enough talent to be able to do it, but it's not about 2024. This is, it's a wash. You're washing the deck, man. And now you've got to get it back together, shuffle it, and deal it out again. And I think that's something to remember. It's not just about one pick. It's not about number 5 overall. It's about all these picks, and it's about 2025 and 2026 and building something that's sustainable. And that's what he did at Stanford. And in San Francisco, he walked into a very talented team. Very talented team. Offensive line was already assembled. Staley's already there. That whole offensive line was already intact. Vernon Davis, a freak of freaks at tight end. Frank Gore, a freak of freaks at running back. So, and not to mention just the defensive line. Aldon Smith, Justin Smith, Ahmad Brooks, Patrick Willis. I mean, that defense was stupid.
Navarro Bowman
was a rookie. So he inherited all of that. So I think it's important to remember that 13-3 turnaround and what he had in front of him from a 6-10 team. So I guess, my big takeaway is you always want a coach to be authentic. You hear that all the time. If you're going to change a culture and establish a culture, the most important thing is to be yourself and be authentic.
He's told no lies. He's told no lies.
This is, what did Bucky Brooks tell us? I would bet my house that the first pick is not going to be a wide receiver of the Jim Harbaugh era.
Yeah.
I would bet my house, is what he said.
Bucky's house is safe. Just to paint a picture
exactly.
for you guys, we are at Topgolf El Segundo. It is freezing
Chris is
outside.
cold. I'm cold.
It's freezing. The draft is still going on, and I'm looking down just to see if anything wild has happened. One of the things that stands out to me is we kind of push it forward to tomorrow money, rounds 2 and 3. No corner has been selected. We're in the 20s. All right, so no Quinyon Mitchell, no Terrion Arnold. Kool-Aid McKinstry is still on the board. Wiggins from Clemson. So, like, as much as I'm thinking, wide receiver could be an option, corner could be another option for the Chargers early in the second.
Oh, they need one.
Yeah.
And now it's going to sound like I'm talking down to the people that follow and listen, and I'm not. I appreciate you, but I think it's just natural. Like, what about our wide receiver room? It's the worst wide receiver room in the league. Okay, how about the cornerback room? How about the corner room? Like, Michael Davis is gone.
Yeah.
You've got.
We got Zant.
That's it. And Christian Fulton, who they just signed. Like, nobody's saying, well, what about our corner room? You know how important cornerbacks are in the NFL.
Yeah.
And like, nobody's saying, what about why wouldn't we trade down and take, Quinyon Mitchell, or trade down and take Terrion Arnold, or trade down and take Nate Wiggins? We never got one of those. It was all draft a wide receiver, and I think that's the trouble I'm having connecting is, we all want Justin Herbert to be the best quarterback in the league. But the idea that you're going to sacrifice his stats for wins and for identity, like, well, he needs a wide receiver. You can't do this. Sure you can. Justin's stoked.
Yeah.
You get a tackle you pair a tackle like Slater with Joe Alt. Ain't nobody more happy than Justin Herbert right now. You get J.K. Dobbins next to him for play action because he's ripping off 6 yards per clip like he has his whole career. Yeah, he's excited. He's happy about this. So
there's guys out there
Justin
too.
Herbert will be fine.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. This is how he played football at Oregon. This is Mario Cristobal football. O-line, run game. When I need to make a play, Justin, you're going to go out there and make a play. And that's what he did at Oregon. And that's why some people dinged him coming into the league. He's no stranger to this. Like, this is what he did at Oregon. And it led to a Rose Bowl victory for Oregon over, I think it was Wisconsin they played. But, like, he knows. He's comfortable playing this way.
Yeah, and Justin uses his legs a little bit in this offense as well. I mean, we've seen him as a runner, and he does a very good job of protecting himself when he runs, save for maybe the first game he's ever played against the Chiefs when he leveled the linebacker out of bounds. But it's just going to be a different style of offense. But you're right, Money. Like, we've kind of neglected talking about the defense because I think, especially around the draft, it's just an exciting position to talk about. Wide receiver, and you envision Justin Herbert. And listen, if it was Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison or Rome Odunze, we would have been thrilled up here talking about that.
I know I say it all the time, and it's got to be tiring for the people listening, but I wish those of you that could have lived the life that I lived when I was calling Stanford football, and I got to go up on the farm, and I can't begin to tell you, after seeing it like the first 2 times, when I'm looking at my schedule and what games I get to call, and I see Stanford, Oregon, Stanford, Cal, big games, Stanford, USC, and I know I'm going to go watch Toby Gerhart punish dudes. It was fun, man. It was fun watching those fourth quarters. Dude, I watched USC quit at the Coliseum. I watched them quit a football game, literally quit, to the point where I was told after the game that someone came up to Toby and was like, hey, man, are we not done? And there was still like 8 minutes left in the game. They're like, you're really going to keep, that was 55-10 game. Like, and that was the what's your deal game.
What's your deal?
They quit. Like, you know how much fun it is to watch a team make another team quit because they just don't want to take the pounding anymore. Like, it's fun. It is fun. And I called a ton of those San Francisco games with Frank Gore and Colin Kaepernick. And, man, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I remember that I think it was the opener. It was Green Bay, San Francisco, a candlestick I called from that stinking shipping container that was bolted to the top of Candlestick where I had to call those games from. And watching Jim Harbaugh and those tight ends and Delaney Walker and Frank Gore just pound those guys was a lot of fun. And I think it's hard to wrap your head around right now, but trust me, you're gonna come around to it. You're gonna dig it. It's gonna be different. And it's just one pick. And who knows, maybe the next 3 picks are wide receivers.
It could be. But making teams submit, I think that's probably the theme and what they're trying to accomplish this year, especially in the fourth quarter, playing 60 minutes of football and not as a cliche. Like we are literally we're playing 60 minutes of football. Any final thoughts as we get out of here, Money? I'm looking. Chop Robinson just went. No corner has been selected right now, and I feel like the Eagles probably will take one. If you guys are listening to this, you already know who the Eagles took, but
yeah, that's true.
You know,
yeah, no, in terms of next pick, I think. Hey, listen, man. I wouldn't be surprised if it's O-line, and there's a center sitting there. Jackson Powers Johnson slips out.
Zach Frazier.
If Graham Barton is there, like Zach, I wouldn't be surprised. And
Zach Frazier, a state champion wrestler.
Exactly. Nick Hardwick, wrestler turned offensive lineman at center. Yeah, give me all the wrestlers. I am all about it. Lorenzo Neal, state champion out of Fresno State and conference champion out of Fresno State. Fingers, strength, that's what it's all about, especially at the center position. So there's gonna be a lot of great players available when they pick again, just because you had 6 quarterbacks go off the board in the first 12. So
crazy.
Now your pick 34 becomes pick 28, which is kind of, is it 34 or 35? Or no, 30.
It's 37, I think.
37 becomes 31.
Yeah.
There you go. So you're essentially, you get a back end of the first rounder is what your second round pick becomes, because of all the quarterbacks.
Just real quick reaction to Bo Nix going to Denver and Brock Bowers going to the Vegas Raiders.
Interesting. Our friend Tom Telesco, it's very interesting because they just took Michael Mayer in the second round a year ago, but I think that speaks to Bowers being more of a weapon than just a tight end. Let's just put him out there, deal with it. Yeah, deal with it. How are you what are you gonna cover Brock Bowers with if we have Mayer attached to the line and Bowers is in the slot? How are you gonna do that? Your linebacker and your safety are too slow. Your corners you're too small. Good luck, figure it out. So it's interesting. I thought for sure the Jets were gonna take him. They took Shanu instead. Which I get. You can't really trust 2 35-year-old tackles to make it through the season with Aaron Rodgers back there, but I really thought the Jets were going to take him. We'll see Brock Bowers twice a year. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Bo Nix, rookie, looking forward to that. Yeah. Absolutely. Give us all of that. We're going to go see Drake May in New England, another rookie on the schedule. We'll get to see Marvin Harrison. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals this year, so you're going to get a heavy dose of that. It's going to be fun. Most definitely going to be fun. I'm excited, as you can tell. I'm all about it. I wanted Jim Harbaugh to be the head coach of the team, and that means I signed up for the way Jim Harbaugh plays football.
All right, I'm going to close the podcast like this. I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you to pretend like you're calling a 7-yard Gus Edwards rush, but Joe Alt just destroyed the man in front of him.
There you go. All right, let me visualize it. Here we go. All right, Chargers, left hash at their own 35 with a 1st and 10. They were able to force 3 and out on the opening possession. Let's see if they can establish a tone here at Arrowhead. And we got offset I as in the backfield. It's Gus Edwards, Joe Alt, the new right tackle out there, getting his first taste of some regular season action. And here we go. It's under center. Herbert, snap, hands to Edwards, and oh my God. George Karlaftis.
Is he okay?
He may not survive. Alt's still just laying on top of him like he's taking a nap. And Edwards goes for 7. 2nd down and 3.
That's the perfect way to end it. We'll be with you throughout the weekend. We'll recap rounds 2 and 3 and obviously everything the Chargers do throughout the weekend. For Money, I'm Chris from Topgolf El Segundo. This is Chargers Weekly.